page,
Recording in progress.
of the mimer, page 203, second paragraph on the page. And we were trying to explain about the idea about Yofes Sichasan Shal Avdei Avos. Why do we say that the Sicha, the speech which we explained, is going on the level of davening, is greater than the level of Torah? And we started speaking about that itself is also derived from Torah itself, because Torah itself spends so many pages on it. So at the very same time that we're talking about the mile of Sicha, of davening, we are saying that it's derived and it's in Torah, meaning that Torah is the one that is telling us how great it is. So we started explaining that this idea is that Torah, to be able to have its full power and strength, must be preceded by the bittul of davening. And earlier in the Maimer he explained, first of all, Sicha, Tefillah, is the idea of bittul, it's self-sacrifice, k'avda kamemore, like a servant standing before his master. Avdei Avos, an Eved shows on the idea of bittul. The idea of Avos, hein hein markava, they are a divine chariot, it all shows on the level of bittul. But all of this is necessary as a prerequisite to be able to reach the higher level of Torah. In other words, there could be Torah before davening, but the Torah before davening is not on that level that there's a Torah prior to davening. Because Torah prior to davening doesn't have the bittul of davening. Once we have the bittul of davening, so then the Torah can be so high, like David HaMelech, who was Ne'im Zmiris Yisrael, who was about davening. He was the one that was mechaber the Torah with the Eibishter because of this high level that he reached in davening. And the Rebbe also explained that this is also seen, this progression in the month of Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, is about davening. It's concluding the height of it, the Mailim B'Kodesh, that we're going up higher and higher, is Simchas Torah, the idea of Torah. So we see that the Maila of Torah is predicated and comes only after the davening. And that's why Abba Binyamin said that one of the things he was very careful about was that his davening should be as soon as he gets up, so that he doesn't learn before he's davening, so his learning should be on this higher level. And we also mentioned about why it's specifically, why is this Maila of Sicha, of davening, derived by the story of the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, because Yitzchak is the idea of the written Torah, Rivka is the idea of the oral Torah, and the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka is the union of Torah Shebeksav and Torah Shebal Peh. So in that union of Torah Shebeksav and Torah Shebal Peh, the ultimate level of Limud Torah, over there needs to be present the idea of Tefillah. So even though I brought it all together very, very nicely, so now he's going to conclude on the questions that he asked before, which is higher, and if Tefillah is so great, why is it expressed through the idea that Torah is written extra pages, which means that we're giving importance to Torah, that Torah was written extra pages, and from that we learn out about Yofes Sichasan. So he says in the second paragraph, fifth page of the Maimer, page 203. But this will also be understood what it says, that it's more beautiful, the Sicha of the servants of the forefathers, than the Torah of the children. When we say that A is better than B, or A is more special, it doesn't mean, okay, we're not doing B. A lot of times I get these questions. What's better, this or that? I should do that or not do this. It's not about, just because we say this is better, that doesn't mean to put down something else. Yes, Yafas Sichasan shall Avdei Avos Mitarasan shall Banim. Davening, it has a mila over Torah, but it doesn't mean that you should remain Sheina Kavanah Lishor Bin in Asicha shall Avdei Avos B'chis Halah the Tefillah, to only have the elevation that davening elevates us to a level that we should be able to have the appropriate Torah learning, but rather it's a prerequisite, it's a preface, it's an introduction. Al shiyum shagacharkach bebeis v'gimel daven shebetoira. This has to express itself that after the davening, it should come down in the 2-3 pages of Torah, but often in such a manner, sham shachash idealim at Torah, that which is drawn down through the study of Torah, tia la'achrei Allah, the tefillah should come about after the ascent of davening. That's also the idea that the sikha, the talk of the meaning, the davening, is more beautiful, is derived from the marriage of Yitzchak v'Rivka, because to show as great as the davening is, but it's about the joining of the Torah Shebeksav and Torah Sheba'al. We need Yichud Torah Shebeksav and Torah Sheba'al. As we said before, the Yitzchak is the idea of the written Torah, and Rivka's idea of the oral Torah. Ki atachlis the Yafas Sichas and Chulu, because the goal and purpose of the beautiful Sicha, just like Begashmias, what was the purpose of the entire story that was being related over there with Eliezer? It was Ilagia to be able to reach. In that place, it was the reaching of the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. In our case, that means Lagia Lamal Satoir Kvi Shelach Tefillah, to reach the quality and level of Torah, the way it transcends and the way it's higher, and one reaches a higher level after davening. That's what it means. It's more beautiful. The sicha of the servants of the forefathers, the davening, than the Torah of the children. Who are the forefathers? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. And we know him bechinas hamidas. They are the level of the attributes, the character traits, and more specifically, they are the level of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. Avram is Chesed, Yitzchak is the level of Gvura, Yaakov is the level of Tiferes, which is the core midos. Everything else is only branches. Netzach, Chod, Yesod, Malchus are branches. The core midos is Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. Now, when we talk about the midos, we don't have to be limited just to the midas the way they are in Atzilus. Va'ad, and until, when we're talking about the others, it can go all the way up to L'chagas Atik, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, the way they are in Atik Yomin, in Kesed. Shari Zab, Atik Achel V'Talia, it's brought down in Zohar, that Ze'er Ampin is going on the midas, is joined and hanging upon Atik. So therefore we find that Chagas has to do with the level of Atik Yom in the Midas, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the others have to do with Atik. And Atik, we know, Shezoi Bechina Shalamayla Mishtalshus. That's a level that's beyond the chain order of descent of the worlds. The Indians that Shaykh L'Tfilah, this idea, we're talking about the Sicha of the Avdei Avos. This idea has to do with davening, which we know, Sicha Sun Shal Avdei Avos. The Sicha of the Avdei Avos, they reach the level that's higher than the Seder Ishtalshus. The Sicha of the servants of the forefathers, even though it's the lowest level of the forefathers. That's the indication of the Avos. They are the servants of the forefathers, meaning they are lower. In the forefathers, they are only the lowest level that there is of the forefathers. They are higher than Torah of the children. That's the higher level of the children. In other words, like this: you have the servants of the forefathers, and you have the Torah of the children. The children themselves are automatically lower than the forefathers. Avdei Avos is the lowest levels of the forefathers. The Torah of the children is the highest level of the children. Despite that, the lowest part of the higher is always higher than the higher part of the lower. Because the level of the bonim, the level of the children, they're the level already they have to do with the chain order of descent. They're not higher than ishtalshlus, like you spoke about the Avos. Al derech maimer azal. Ragle achayis keneged kulam. Similar to what the Chazal say when it enumerates about the different levels of the malachim. It says there's malachim beneath the chayis, and there's other things under it. And it says even the feet of the malachim that are called chayis are more than and correspond to all the levels beneath it. So even though it's only the regel of the chayis, even if it's only the leg of the chayis, the lowest level of the malachim called chayis, still in all, it's higher and corresponds to everything beneath it. The lowest level of the higher one, like the servant of the fathers, is higher than the higher of the lower. In other words, the Torah of the children. Why does it say it's more beautiful? It could say it's better. All types of expressions that the Chazal could have used to say how much more important it is what's going on with the servants of the servants of the forefathers, the sikha of the servants of the forefathers. Why does he use the word yafa? We know beauty, that's the sphere of Tiferes. And Tiferes, beauty comes about when there's an intermingling of many colors. And Chassidus explains, how is it possible that you could have different things joined together? That's only when something beyond Seder Ishtalshlus comes to bear. The level of Tiferes is really a level that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. It says that the central line of the three lines, right, left, and center, so Tiferes is in the central line, that goes up all the way to Keser. Why is it so? Because only from the power that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus can you have the level of beauty, which is an intermingling of many different levels and so on. In a similar vein, I've heard it explained that also the idea of beauty in general is something that's much more ephemeral, less tangible. Again, that shows on something being out of the box, not part of Seder Ishtalshlus. So therefore, since it's about Sichos Shel Avdei Avos, now we said that it's the level that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, so therefore the Chazal used the term Yafe. Yafe indicates, beauty indicates that it's a level that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. The Rebbe goes on to say, despite that great and unbelievable thing, like we said before, you can't just settle for the Sikha alone. It doesn't just mean, okay, Sikha is better, davening is better, let's stay with that. No. You need to take that level and bring it down. The goal is that it should be drawn down below, and specifically, and what is the one that draws it down below? The drawing down below comes about through a level of Torah, but based on what took place beforehand, as it comes about in the ultimate way, the Torah, through proceeding with davening. So first you have to have the halah of davening, the elevation of davening. Then you reach the most highest level, higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. Now, when you learn Torah following the davening, you're drawing down that higher level that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, as opposed to if you were just learning Torah without the preface of davening. That's the idea that it's brought down in Kabbalah, that the innermost level of Atik Yomin, which is the inner level of Keser, comes down into the inner level of Chachma. We know that Torah is Chachmasa Yizbarach. So we have this special connection between the Chachma of Torah that there is with Atik, So when we have the connection with Atik beforehand, we have the connection with Atik before we learn the Torah, through the level of our davening beforehand, because the davening is a level of higher than say the Shtalshus, as we said before. It's a level of Avos, the level of the Chagas of Atik and so on. So then, when we sit down to learn Torah afterwards, so then we have the Pnimius Atik come down in the Pnimius of Chachma. Ki yadua shepnimius Abba Pnimius Atik mamish. It says that it doesn't just mean that there's like a ray, a revelation of Atik that comes down into Chachma, but rather it's transposed. It's this very inner part of Atik Yoimin becomes the inner part of Chachma. In other words, hidden in Chachma is the most elevated level, higher than Seder Shtalshlos. But again, when do we bring this out? We bring this out when we daven beforehand. The Rebbe says, in Torah itself, where do we have this manifested more? Where do we have this expressed more? More specifically, that's the inner level of Torah that was revealed in the teachings of Chassidus. That over there you have the Pnimius Atik manifested. And that's why it has to do with Mashiach's times, because Mashiach's times, as we had in the different Maimers, also revelation of Pnimius Atik. This is how Maimer said on Shabbos Mevorchim Chodesh Kislev. So it's already connected with Yutes Kislev, which is Rosh Hashanah L'Torah Chassidus. Rosh Hashanah for Torah Chassidus means Shal Yoda Mamshichim B'Pchinas Pnimius At V'Atzmus Arnesav Baruch Hu. That through the Rosh Hashanah for Chassidus, we're drawing down from the innermost level and from the essence of the Arnesav, Sheyoyer B'Pnimius Nafsheinu, that it should shine in the innermost level of our nefesh. Asher Kol Atzmus Seinu, that our entire essence. And the meaning of that is, this means, Kol Metziyaseinu, Ha'etzem V'Yispashtus, this means our entire being, both the essence of our being and the expansion, the revelation of our being, Yiyu Elav Yizbarach Levad, should be only for Hashem. This is the purpose, this is the goal of Torah Chassidus, that we're drawing down from the innermost level of the Ein Sof that creates this connection of our innermost level today, like the Rebbe Rashab writes in his well-known letter from Tafresh Samach Aleph, where the Rebbe Rashab explains over there the meaning of Yutes Kislev, and that's when the phrase Rosh Hashanah for Chassidus was coined. And so, and at that time, the Rebbe Rashab explains this innermost meaning of Yutes Kislev, how the revelation of Torah Chassidus creates the special connection of the bond and devotion of our entire being, essence and expansion with the Eibishter's very being as well. So this is again a result of the davening beforehand, and it's even more so manifested in the teachings of Chassidus. Now the Rebbe goes back to what he was saying before about how there's Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, followed by Simchas Torah, but he's going to break it down a little bit more in detail than what he said before. Oizvov, last paragraph on the page, this idea of davening followed by Torah learning is the Yafes Sichason, the my love davening, the Halah, the elevation that brings it down, the Amshacha from the highest levels, is also the Avodah, the order of the Avodah, the times of the year. Shalchol Rosh Avodah, the Tefillah first and foremost is the Avodah of davening. Beginning from the acceptance of the yoke of heaven, of making me a king over you, are Rosh Hashanah. That's the first step. The bittul, which is what davening is about. We said before, he's standing like a servant, he's giving over limser nafshoy. That's the main message of davening, and that's the main message of Rosh Hashanah. And also further on, we're continuing the avodah of the Aseres Meitshuva, Dashalem Nemar, concerning the Aseres Meitshuva, it says, Dir Shavai Bim Matzah Kreu B'Yosef Karev, search out Hashem when he is found. call to him when he is close. And the Chazal ask, what does it mean, search him out when he is found and call him when he's close? What is that time that he is found, that you have to search him out? What is that time that he is close? So he says, the Chazal say it's Aser Simei Tshuva. And the Chazal go on to explain, Shetfilas HaYachid, that when a person davens, even alone during Aser Simei Tshuva, Nechsheves Kitfilas HaTzibur B'Shayim Meis HaShana. So davening, b'yechidus, on the 10 and Aser Simei Tshuva has the same power of davening with a minyan throughout the 10 days of the throughout the rest of the days of the year. Derech Hagav, the Rebbe says, so it's self-understood. If it's like davening with a minyan the rest of the days of the year, how much greater is davening with a minyan in Aser Simei Tshuva than the rest of the days of the year? It all increases. It doesn't remain the same. Well, Achar is following all of this and following Yom Kippur and following Sukkot. We explained in other Amorei Chassidus that Atzeres, the word Atzeres means from the word absorbing, receiving, internalizing. So Shmini Atzeres is the time when we take everything that went on through Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, etc., and we bring it down. Atzeres Tiyeh Lachem. It should come down to you in the internalized. And that is similar to what we said before. That is what's being brought down of Torah after the ascent of davening. And then it doesn't just stop over there. This afterwards comes down in the avodah that Yaakov went on his way. The Rebbe often, during the weeks after Tishrei, certain years, the Rebbe would go on and on and on, every single Shabbos explaining another stage in Yaakov went on his way, that they used to proclaim in Lubavitch after the Yom Tovim. They used to say, and Yaakov went on his way. And the Rebbe explained all different types of levels of how we are going on our way and how much we are more immersed into elevating the world throughout the days after Tishrei. So he says, B'meshach kol hashana, we are going on our own way, in a way of doing the way of the world. In other words, we're preoccupied with worldly things, with mundane things. We're going to work, we're making a living. And in that, we are bringing down the experience of Shmini Atzeres Simchas Torah, Dam Shach of Torah. And similar to this is in the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. Initially, they took Rivka out of Charan. Charan, Rashi explains, it's Charoi Nafshel Olam. It's the anger of Hashem in the world, meaning Oil Misbiyah. In more broader sense, it's referring to the worlds of Bri, Yitzir Asiyah, which is separated. They are Nivraim, they're not Alakus. V'hainu, this means Yitzchak helas Rivka mebyala Atzilus. Initially, Yitzchak elevated Rivka from Bri Yitzir Asiyah to Atzilus. Shezel al derech ha'ala, the tefillah. This is similar to the ascent of davening. The Indians and this idea, and this was a preparation for the union of Yitzchak and Rivka that took place afterwards, the marriage. First he took her out of Charan, then they got married. He brought her to the tent of Sarah, his mother, and he loved her. So that was, first you had the halal, then you had the yichud. Achar is at the top of the last page. Afterwards, once you had the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, you had the resulting Yaakov's birth and everything that took place, and then Yaakov went back to Charan. That's the place where Rivka came from, which seems very strange. Here we're trying to extract Rivka from Charan. Now the results of that union of Yitzchak and Rivka, you're putting back into Charan? Exactly. To be involved over there in the avoida of refining the spark, this idea of drawing down below, to the very place that from there was the ascent. Over there you have to draw down afterwards below. The Indians from the Vayisa Yaakov Raglov, and this was in such a manner that Yaakov raised this feast. That Rashi explains what's the expression. he started going. Why does it use the expression Vayisa Yaakov Raglav? It's talking about after Hashem promised him all the good things that will occur to him. So Vayisa Yaakov Raglav, he raised his feet, and his Basar, it's Psura Toiva. He was told the good news about the children and so on. It's similar to the joy and the dancing of Simchas Torah. First of all, it's joyous because the idea of being told good news, and also the idea of raising his feet that Rebbe said in other places many times. Raising the feet has to do, that's the idea of dancing. The dancing permeates the entire body of the person until even it affects that literally his feet are raised off the ground. So we see again this type of elevation, take Rivka out to bring down the Amshacha, bring Yaakov back into Chorah. Why they close in Yitzchak v'Rivka through the general idea of the union of Yitzchak and Rivka, Shu Inyan an Nisuyin, that's the idea of marriage. Va'ad lo'ilod bonim, until we actually have the birth of children in Api Maim Razal. Like according to what the Chazal say, Ein ben David ba'ad sheichlu neshamas shebegufim, that ben David, Mashiach, will not come until all the neshamas will empty out of the storage place known as the guf above, that all the neshamas will come down here. We merit through the marriage and children that the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, David Malch Mashiach, David the King Mashiach, David Avdi Naslam Lo'ilam, David my servant is over them, a leader over them forever. She given the Mikdash from Kaimah B'chol, you build a base of Mikdash in its place, because of Mamish, soon Mamish.